Hello, Ashley.
Hello. Glad to be here,
So
Jodi.
good to have you on the Second Mother channel. And I've been doing a series about different aspects of foster care. And I was so excited when you suggested that we should do something about social workers. I have a great love for social workers, especially a particular social worker who is the reason that our last adoption happened because it was an impossible adoption and she took it on anyway. So I have so much respect and admiration for your profession. You currently serve as the Senior Manager of Engagement for the Christian Alliance for Orphans, where you do many things related to supporting all of the people in the Christian Alliance for Orphans. Your training, however, is as a social worker, and you worked for 14 years as a social worker. Is that correct?
That's correct. I did. I worked
Okay.
in foster care and adoption.
And you continue to do both, right? And you lead a support group, you do speaking, you do training. Okay, your education, I don't know what all these letters mean, but I'm sure the people watching who always know more than me. So you got your master's in Christian counseling, and you're currently pursuing your DMin, which is very impressive. So then you'll be Dr. Phelan. And that will be in Strategic Christian Ministry from Liberty University. I know what a TBRI practitioner is. You are also an MSOYW facilitator. Tell me about that.
Yeah, it's a really great project. It is making sense of your worth. And Cindy Lee out of Halo Project actually developed it in partnership with TCU, and it's a wonderful program. It's actually centered around attachment and how you can help people go from insecure attachment to an attachment style, a healthy attachment style, secure attachment style. And it's wonderful.
Mm.
You do it through support group. They have it for teens. You can do it with prospective adoptive parents. You can do it with people who come from hard backgrounds. It's been amazing and it's really life-changing. And it's a wonderful program. I highly recommend it.
That's incredible. Well, I want to know more about that because we need to get that over here on the east, more on the East
It's
Coast.
so good.
Wow. Okay, and you're SAFE certified. I think I know what that is, but tell us about that.
So SAFE stands for Structured Analytical Family Evaluation. And per the state of California, anybody that is involved with adoptions has to go through this program in order to assess families for adopting. That's what
So
that is.
you worked with tons of families in the process, fostering and adopting. And I'm just excited to pick your brain because all of us in this world have interacted with social workers. Sometimes there's a tension between the social worker and the family, which I want us to talk about. But really, you all make everything that is our heart's desire possible. And then when we need you, we're calling you back up crying. After we were annoyed because you made us fill out too many forms, then we're calling you back up crying. And you are, to me, the profession of social work is just one of the highest callings. Uh, and especially in adoption is such an anointing has to be on you to work with the family, work with the child, bring those two together as a family. It's just really beautiful to me. What motivated you to become a social worker?
I really love being a social worker. And my former bosses had a phrase, and she would say, "Oh, that Jesus, he's so funny." And that really
I love that.
encompasses my social work journey. Long story short, I fell into it, but I really believe this is my calling. And oh, that Jesus, he's so funny. It was where I was meant to
I
be, and I
love
love it.
that. I love that. I'm going to borrow that quote. You tell your
It's so
former
great. I
boss.
use it all the time.
Oh, that Jesus, he is so funny. Okay, so let's talk about from the social worker perspective, because the community that I travel in now is mostly the parent perspective. From the social worker perspective, with so many challenges that we face in foster care and adoption, with the way the system is designed with the things going on in our culture, what are some of the challenges that you face as a social worker interfacing with the system and doing your work?
There's a lot of beautiful things and there's a lot of hard things. And I know we often talk about living in the both and I feel like for everybody, that's a
That's
part of
good.
the journey.
That's good.
Adoptive parents, social workers, adopted individuals, we all have to learn to navigate the both and. Yeah, there's various obstacles. I would say one of them is finding families that are open to kids of various ages, various
Mhm,
abilities, various
mhm,
ethnicities,
mhm,
um, families who genuinely want to provide a home for a child. We
mhm.
say we're finding families for children, not children for families. So
Right,
families who get it.
right.
And we'll use that term, even my coworkers and I will say, oh, that family gets it, or that family doesn't get it, because that really makes a difference. Families who are open to being child centered and want to be the last stop before either reunification or
Yes,
permanency, who are hanging in for the long haul. Um, so really finding families that not only get it, but are willing to do the hard work to provide a safe place for a child.
yes,
Um, One of the biggest questions I get is, well, I hear continually that there are kids who are available for adoption. And, I hear that there's thousands and
right. We do hear that.
why
Yes.
Yes. And so why am I having to wait so long? I'm not understanding.
Oh,
Well, those kids are the kids that are harder to place, if we're speaking
I
frankly.
see.
They're generally older kids. They're kids who are part of sibling groups, larger sibling groups. I mean, Jody, I can tell you, because matching was a part of my job when I was a full-time social worker.
Mm,
I saw sibling groups up to the size of 8, and I understand that it's probably very few and far between to find homes that are open to sibling groups that
sure,
large.
sure.
But the next step, because of course we never want to separate siblings, so sometimes the next best thing is to maybe find a couple of homes that could take that many. Finding families who want to keep in touch with each other because we want those siblings to know
Right,
each other. So when I
right.
think of the waiting kids, it's the kids that are medically fragile. It's the kids who have a lot of behaviors. And so
Mhm.
one of our biggest challenges is finding families that are open to kids who really need permanency, who find themselves in those situations.
So be honest with us, all of us adoptive moms watching this and whoever else is watching. Um, is that your pet peeve about us? What do we need to do to work more effectively with you? How can we make the relationship more harmonious?
We want you to be successful, right? Like if you pass your home study or the fancy term comprehensive family assessment here in California, like we are in this with you and we lose sleep just like you. We cry just like you. We rejoice just like
Mm,
you, right? Like this for most of us this is a calling. This is not a
yes,
job. And so um we are in it with you. And over the years, I can really narrow down pet peeves that I have, to use that term, or just challenges that I have. And if someone were to come to me and say, "How can I work with you well as a social worker? Like, what are patterns
right.
you see?" This is what I would say. First, I would say one of my biggest pet peeves are families who come and are not teachable. They come and think that
Ah,
they're parents of the year, perhaps they're already parenting, and they think they've got it, and they are not open to learning to parent in a different way. And Jody, you will understand parenting birth children is different than parenting a child who is from
wow.
foster.
My oldest child was in college. My husband had had two kids. So we thought, we know how to raise kids. We know what we're doing. We had no idea what we
Mhm,
were doing.
mhm,
And everything that worked with those kids didn't work. In fact, it made it worse. So I am
mhm,
here to testify that what you're saying is completely true about that.
mhm. It
Yeah,
is different, and
very different.
we have seen what works and we have seen what hasn't. We
Right.
really are strong cheerleaders and proponents of trauma-informed parenting, and that's what we're gonna train you in, and so really just teachability. When I have a family come to me and I can tell they're not teachable, that's a challenge from
Right.
the very, very start. So that's a pet peeve
So
of mine for sure.
be open to letting the social worker teach you, lead you. This is her profession. And even if you think you're a seasoned parent, as I did, it's going to be different this time. You know, part of that, Ashely, is our own denial that that happens to other people, but my experience is going to be perfect and beautiful because the Lord led me
Mhm.
to it, right? That's his,
Mhm. Absolutely.
yes, yes,
Absolutely. And we really try to encourage parents to be proactive in their training and what they learn because we know
right.
once child comes home, whether through foster care or with the hope of adoption, and you're in the trenches, then your training, the
Yes.
podcast, that's all really hard, right, to do
It's
while you're in the
really
thick of
hard. You
it.
have no time and it just feels like, when
Mhm.
could I possibly do that? Yeah.
Right, right. So the more you front load, the better.
Good. It's
Um,
good.
so so really, teachability. The second thing I would
Teachability,
say
training. Okay.
is have proper expectations.
Mm,
And I would even go a step further and say lower your expectations by a lot. Because if you
good.
expect a child to come in and behave a certain way
Right.
or fill a hole in your heart, which they do not, please do the work before they are placed with you. Um, Really you're going to be disappointed and it's not going to be successful for anybody. You have got to lower your expectations and have open hands and an open heart to what God has for you. And really, every child is different, and we can do
Yes.
our best to train you, but you have to be able to roll with it. And lowering expectations will minimize your disappointment. And also, then we can help each child individually, and you're not going to have this preconceived set of notions that you're feeling like you're not meeting and now
Yeah.
you're feeling disappointed and like you're not a good parent. So that's another thing I would say.
My adopted children are equally as magnificent, interesting as the other children. It's more just getting rid of my expectations altogether and maybe just
Mm,
being on a journey with that child. I know what you mean by lower, though, because when it comes to their behavior, we have, you know, these high standards. We think it's going to be
mhm,
really easy for them to onboard, and it's not easy.
mhm,
So, and the expectations go both ways, right? The child also has expectations. So everybody's expectations end up like this. My kids thought
sure.
that Arnold Schwarzenegger was going to live next door. It's a true story.
That is
That it was
awesome.
all movie, everyone in America was a movie star, and that we would ride around in a limo. So clearly they have been watching some cable channel at the orphanage. It was based where you live, not where I live.
That is funny.
So anyway, so that's two great points. Do you have
Mm,
a third?
I do have a third,
Okay,
and this is a very big one, Jody, and I'm just going to speak plainly.
be playing.
Before you foster or adopt, please do your work. And what I mean by that is you have got to be in a healthy place emotionally, spiritually.
Mhm.
You have to resolve any issues you might have because let
Yeah.
me tell you, you will be triggered in a way you have never
Yes,
been triggered before.
yes,
And you will begin to toss your stuff onto this poor child and
yes,
ask them to bear it with you.
yes.
um, like Dr. Kurt Thompson says, hurt people hurt people. And if you are
Right,
hurting and if you are bleeding all over the place and you have not
right.
done the work to resolve that, you are going to bleed on your child. And like Dr. Purvis
So
says,
good.
heaven help us if we make our children bleed anymore. So please do
Yes,
your work. And I will tell you a lot of the time, as a TBR practitioner, when I meet with families and they come to me and they have a challenge about their children's behavior, usually a big part of that is the way that the parents are triggered and they haven't done their own work and now they're
right.
dysregulated and they're engaging in power plays, and that's a big part of it. So
It's
please do your work.
true. It's so true, Ashely. That is such good wisdom. And I think we know that intellectually,
Mm,
but you don't know what you don't know till you know it, right?
it's
So
true.
I had therapy several times in my life, but for me, adopting an older child who had their own personality, their own issues, it's different. It was different for
Mhm,
me than having previously adopted an infant. And from my husband, not having adopted before, it really does, you bring your own childhood into any
You do.
parenting relationship, any parenting
Yes.
relationship. You
Yes.
bring your own childhood, and you don't realize you're doing that until you encounter a child who's had a different childhood, already had a
That's
childhood,
right.
and you have your childhood, and your two childhoods are trying to merge into what does the parent-child relationship look like. And those things can be
Hmm.
so different. And that brokenness is going to bubble up to the surface in both of you. It really is.
Hmm.
So that is
Hmm.
that's such good advice. Such good
Hmm.
advice. And most of us, a lot of us, um, don't realize we need to do more work until we already have children in our home, because
It's true.
that's when it comes out. But God's grace is
Hmm.
sufficient. It's not too late if you're watching this and you feel like, oh my gosh, now I've really messed up. I've already got the kids and I'm realizing I have daddy issues or whatever it is. It's not too late. It's not too
It's
late.
never too late.
Yes. Yes.
Never. And that's one thing a social worker appreciates. I think a lot of people think they're going to get in trouble or we're going to remove their kids or something's
Right.
going to happen if they're honest with us. And actually, we love when you're vulnerable and honest because that tells us that you're somebody we can trust and that you're going to come to us right away when you have a challenge or a problem and we want to help you. Remember, we want to help you keep these kids
Right.
in your home for as
Right.
long as it's appropriate and healthy. So we will come alongside and help. We don't want to just be pulling kids left and right. So we
No, you have
really,
enough
really
work to
appreciate
do,
it.
right? If you have a family, you
Absolutely.
want to, yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So we want to
That's
help you
really
and we
good.
get it.
You do get it. Yes. Imagine you're going to come do my home study, Ashley. And on the first time we meet, I feel sorry for the first woman who came to do my home study. I'm just thinking back about her. God bless her. It was a long time ago. I don't know where she is now, but um I was a tough case. um what initially in the relationship should we do so that the relationship feels like a partnership together instead of how we usually feel, which is you're going to come in my home, you're going to expose my shortcomings, you're going to see that my closets need to be organized.
Mm,
It's like feeling like someone's coming to inspect you instead of feeling like someone's coming to really partner with you. So what can we as parents do from the very first meeting so that we establish that partnership dynamic?
for sure. For sure. One of the first things is realizing that social workers were not the bad guys. As I mentioned, we're in it with you. We want you to be successful. We're in this line of work because we love it. We want kids to find families that are appropriate and healthy where they can thrive.
Mhm.
Um, so we are in this with you. When I feel or sense a resistance from the very beginning, that is a red flag for me. So I would just say, realize that. Please be open and honest from the very beginning. I have worked with families in the past where after running their fingerprints or doing their individuals interviews or receiving the references, I discover things that I did not know or they were untruthful with me
Mhm.
about. And
Mhm.
then if I can't trust you in that, then I am not going to
Right,
pass you for your home study. So, but if you're honest with me from the very beginning, typically I'll be able to work with you. Now, of course, there's some hard things, non-negotiables that I won't be able to. But
right,
generally, if you've had a harder, colorful past, if you have learned from that and you've moved through it, that's going to be an asset in your home study in a way that you can come alongside your child who's also having different obstacles. So just
right.
be open and honest. Um, and the third thing I would say is we touched on this is be teachable. It's really interesting when I meet with people for the first time, I do bring up openness. We know that openness is healthy. It's what we want for children.
Mhm.
Sometimes that means contact looks different for every family, but we want openness. We want kids to know that they were adopted from the minute you bring them home because secret implies shame and we don't want that. We want them to know everything about their story, age appropriate, of course, but we want them to have every piece to their puzzle.
Back in 1993 or 4, when I was having my first
Mhm.
social worker relationship, having my first home study, I remember the worker said every child is interested in what their parents look like. And you will
Mhm.
be asked that even by a very small child. And it's appropriate for you to show the child a picture of the parent and answer
Mhm.
their questions. And I
Mhm.
I was so thankful for that guidance because she said, imagine otherwise it's just sort of this ghost, this blank thing. And imagine not having any context
That's right.
for your history. And so um, I had a long way to go, but I was a little bit teachable, Ashley. I do remember
I
making
love that.
sure I asked those questions, I had those pictures, and of course, with older children, it was a very open kind of situation with birth family and navigating all of that. What blesses you most about your work?
Mm. I love what I do. I love that I still get to do it, alongside my full-time job with CAFO. Um, it's hard, but it's so good. I love, that I get to come alongside families and see them grow. I love seeing children in homes that they're gonna be in forever and see them thrive.
Mm,
I, having done this now for, gosh, 14, well, I was a social worker for 14 years, but now I've been in this social services for longer than that. I've been able to see kids grow from literally them coming home from the hospital to now they're
wow.
teenagers in high school. And the difference that a family makes is huge. I don't have kids. I'm not married. I don't have kids, but I tell people, man, this has been such a gift from the Lord to feel like I'm a part of all these different families. And I can tell you story upon story of various friends that I've helped adopt that when we were friends as kids, I never knew what was going to happen. And so the Lord has allowed me to be a part of stories in really special ways. I've seen miracles happen. It's been absolutely,
Awesome.
absolutely incredible. Don't get me wrong, there's been a lot of heartache and tears and some decisions made by judges and courts that I didn't necessarily agree with, but overall it's been really great. And I know I've been talking about adoption a lot, but it's also been a wonderful thing to see families get to go home to families that have been restored.
Yes. Yes.
That's what we want. We want always for
Right.
kids to go home to their first families if possible.
Yes.
So to get to know birth parents, and I will tell you, especially birth parents in the foster care system, I have discovered that most of them are really great people with wonderful hearts who just are coping the best way they can, and they don't
Right.
have the tools like you
Right.
and I do to make better decisions, but they love their kids. They
Mm,
truly do. And
mhm.
so to be able to come alongside and get to know them has been really humbling and really wonderful for me as well.
It's just really been a blessing to our community that you've offered these insights and these tips because the more social workers and parents are working together rather than being adversarial, the more kids are going to end up whole and healthy and in the family
Mhm,
that they need to be in. So I just commend
mhm.
you. I commend all your colleagues. We love social workers. I know you have crazy caseloads and crazy hours and not so crazy pay. So thank you so much.